So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio, and today is Tuesday, December the 12th, 2023, and our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us, and we would love to hear your comments and questions, because that makes this your show, and that's what we want, is for this to be your show, for us to be here to support you in any way that we can. And, for us to do that, we have to know, what direction do you want to take it? What can we do to support you? And so I'll give Michael just a moment to get dialed in, and then I will turn on Celinda's microphone. So Michael and I did a quick jaunt out. There's a nice Indian restaurant here, and they serve some good vegetarian dishes, and they have a buffet, and so we decided that we would run out and eat at the buffet, and we just walked in the door when I turned on my phone, so give him just a moment there. And we hope that you're doing well, hope that your holiday preparations are going well, and that remembering to breathe and stay connected to love. I'll put the link for the book Breath by James Nestor in the notes for today. After Michael gets on, I'll look up the Google search for it so that I have the exact link. And I'll put that in the notes for today. That was interesting. I just caught the tail end of the conversation, but we appreciate you. Thank you, Kim, for talking about that too. And let's see if he's having technical difficulties, if there's anything I can do from this end of the show. Let's see. Okay. So, Celinda's hand went down, so I'm assuming that means her comment was for Dr. Tim and not Michael. And I think that he had already spoken with Susan. Her hand's up. I'm going to go ahead and turn on her microphone. Hi, Susan. How are you?
Hello, Jeanie. Hello, Jeanie. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. And Michael is with us now. So.
Okay. I was going to say, it's brave and crazy that you watch these very disturbing movies. Michael gives out the titles, and I think, well, that's one I'm not going to watch. I just haven't got the stomach. You were so, that Christmas poem you read, the song, oh, my God, you were still suffering from the movie, and I thought, geez. I was going to use a word, not a nice word, but I was going to say life is this is a quote now, life is a shit show. Well, it's a lot of things, but I haven't got,
a shit show. What a great description, Susan.
I know. I know. I've been watching The Crown. I generally don't watch things. I do a lot of reading. But my daughter is watching The Crown, the latest one about Diana, and I meant to get on that one, but accidentally started at the very beginning, and it is just so exquisite. But it's also, I'd seen some of the series years ago, and I'm listening to it with such different ears, having started using wake-up sheets and the tools. The animosity, the fear, the restrictions and restraints on the royalty, it's really, even that is, you'd have to do wake-up sheets. And I didn't feel the need of that years ago. I just remember liking it very much, but you can see, so I don't know whether it's just, maybe I don't know what it is, but it's very different to listen now. And I'm thinking, even that takes a certain amount of breathing while watching, and yet you you want to finish the work by diving into these deeply upsetting documentaries and movies about atrocities and things. And I don't know whether I admire you or think you're crazy.
Well, can I offer some feedback?
Sure.
Nobody in all of eternity has ever been upset by a movie or a documentary. Ever. However, if someone watches that movie or documentary and there's upset in them, resonated by the movie, they're going to get it in spades.
Right.
Now let's see, which way would be better? Keep it hidden, pretend it's not there so it unconsciously destroys us, or confront it, work through it. Which do you suppose would work better?
Well, that's a loaded question, Michael. Oh, man.
It's not loaded. It's just simple, straight up, straightforward. Can a movie cause upset in us? Pain, trauma, disturbance? Absolutely not.
Well, whether you use the word resonate or cause, I understand the difference, and I don't even want to have stuff resonating, because during the day there's enough stuff resonating already. Yes, there is definitely a need to do wake-up sheets all day long, and to add to the homework by watching a movie that left Jeanie half of a wreck yesterday, I'm telling you, I think you're nuts.
Well, that's okay.
I mean,
it brought up a lot. It brought up a lot for both of us. We were both in tears.
I know. You said.
But to think that I can benefit by not facing that which is in me, by pretending it's not there and avoiding any stimulus to it. Does that make sense, really, when you think about it? I mean, if we're in projection, we can blame the movie. We can say, yeah, the movie does that. My offering is the movie doesn't do anything to us except show us what's there. And if we are energetic beings, and there is, in the Aramaic definition of the word sin, if there are energies that are off the mark in us, is it wise not to face them and just let them lie there hiding and taking their toll on us? Just something to think about. I can remember the first time I did it. You know, I was in that mindset you're in. I can remember the first time. I remember even what movie it was. There was a time frame where I would not go to a violent movie. I don't care what happened. I just wouldn't do it. And I had the guidance to go to this horrible movie called The Island. I don't know what year that was. But it was just like, I'm not going to that movie. My guidance was, go. No. Go. No. Okay, I'll go. In the opening scene, there's a boat in the Caribbean somewhere, and somebody crawls up the back of this big, not huge yacht, but fairly good-sized boat, and graphically hacks off somebody's leg. And I say to myself, sitting in the movie, what the hell am I doing here? And the response came, Michael, you have a belief about a world of bodies, and you can heal that belief right here, right now, or you can ignore it and wait until you manifest it in your process, in your life. And that's the point at which I started to recognize I need to breathe, I need to forgive, and I go see those kinds of things all the time now. And I use it as a catalyst to do my work. So, it's just another perspective.
Yeah, I like the way you say that.
So I invite you to look up 20 Days in Mariupol, have a stack of worksheets, and be committed to breathe, and breathe through every minute of it. And what you'll be doing is processing through all the generational stuff that you believe about war and abuse and destruction. Because that's what we got to look at. I mean, the last thing I said to Jeanie went to sleep and asked Ruka, it's like, okay, whatever's been resonated in us, please, Ruka, through the night, work on that. Help us to let loose of that. Otherwise, as on yesterday's session, it becomes part of our unconscious creation. And isn't there enough unconscious creation going on in the world that it's time for us to allow ourselves to get conscious and to clean up the parts of us that we hide from ourselves? That would be my offering. And of course, everybody's got a choice to make.
Well, what you say makes sense. And you're in the 11th grade or whatever it is, and I feel as if I'm in the first grade. And because, I'll give you an example. My son, one of his cats, disappeared weeks ago now and hasn't shown up. And I wake up in the night and I have to do some breathing because I'm imagining her out in the wilderness, either dead by now or terrified, which is worse. That's just a cat.
Right.
And I work through that, and I think that's as much as I can do right now. And then I consign
that's wise
the
to
whole.
Just do that.
Yeah, well, and then I consign the cat once again, and I do it over and over to the care of God, whatever and whoever, and however that is, and go from there. But to add on, you read the paper. I do read the paper, which is probably a mistake. Have to do some processing reading the paper, watching these long lines of people trying to get into this country on the southern border because they're so desperate that they've got to get into this country where they're going to be so desperate. I don't know. I don't want to add a movie to it.
Yeah. For me, one of the things to add to the awareness of what's going on the southern border and how people are wailing and whining about it is a big part of the reason those people are in the kind of political, financial, and safety turmoil that they're in is because corporate America has helped them make it that way.
Oh, yeah.
Corporate America has been down in those countries just raping them to the max for everything they've got and leaving those people in a space of hopeless, helpless insanity. And so I think that it's time for us to wake up because, of course, the corporate world, represented by certain political persuasion, wants to tell us how terrible they are and what's wrong with them, and it's all projection. It's all total, complete projection.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we could go on and on and on about this, and I do hear you, and I do as much work as I can. But
well, nobody can do more than that. So I'm with you. Just if it ever strikes you to do another level of intensity, there's the opportunity. And everything that you clean up in your system opens the energy windows for that which has been passed on by you to your future generations to be resolved more easily for them. To me, that's another reason for doing it.
It certainly is a good reason, a terribly good reason. Have you ever watched The Crown?
Yes, we did watch that. I thought it was excellent. And yeah, the trauma, the demands on the royal family. I mean, there's an old saying: "I've been rich and I've been poor, and I'd rather be rich." And, there's definitely some crazy stuff going on. But hey, if you're surrounded with, you reach over and you put $3 billion worth of diamonds on your head for the evening, it can't be too rough.
Well, if you think and would like to watch season 1, show number 9, I forget how they word it. It's about a scene where Winston Churchill, played by, that wonderful actor, his name's gone from my head right now, his portrait is being painted by a wonderful painter who does a beautiful job. Evidently, it's considered a masterpiece. But Winston Churchill in real life burned that painting because it looked like the old man that he had become, and Winston couldn't face it. He just
didn't like it. Yeah, I remember that.
Didn't like it. Yeah, if
John
you watch
John Lithgow.
Lithgow, yeah, John Lithgow.
Yeah.
The fact, it's a psychological piece of psychological gorgeousness in there, where the painter took it upon himself to look at Winston's paintings, because Winston did paint. He painted a particular pond outside on his property. And the painter said to him, I've been looking at your pictures, and you paint a lot of pictures of that pond. And Winston says, yeah, there's so much going on in the pond, and the light's shining on it, and I like it. And the painter says, I saw tremendous something, grief, depth, despair even, in those paintings. And Winston gets quiet. And it's a gorgeous exchange where they both realize, each of them tells the other they've lost a child. One at 4 months, and the painter lost a little boy at 4 months from something, and Winston confesses that he lost a little girl, a toddler, his 5th child. And the two of them get very quiet, and then Winston says, we bought this property right after that, and that's when I dug the pond, put the pond in. And he paints the pond over and over and over again. And
right.
The acting is unbelievably beautiful, where Winston just stops and gets it, that he's been processing by painting that pond,
right.
and grieving painting the pond. And the painter is a gorgeous, beautiful, restrained, he's doing his life purpose. You can tell he is just
right.
where he ought to be. Anyway, it's just a section of it. If you ever wanted to watch it, it is beyond gorgeous. And something like that, which is the best of art. And I'm sitting there so moved, and I'm thinking, I could do wake-up sheets on this, and this is not even the real thing. I mean, there's so much opportunity to need to do a wake-up sheet. Oh, everywhere.
Well, and it's interesting, I'd forgotten that scene, the details of it, and maybe we'll go back and watch it just to be fully conscious of it the way that you were conscious of it. To me, it was more, it's just part of the backdrop of the film. But it certainly points out that even like, Winston Churchill was thought of one of the big tough guys of the world. Sooner or later, everybody's got to process everything in their own unconscious. Mm-hmm. And for him to realize that that's what he was doing, that's really, powerful.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was thinking it's partly from having done using the tools that became so clear, whereas I didn't get that at all the last time I watched the series, which was about
right.
5 years or 6 when it first came out. But I think
mm-hmm.
you'll love it, and you'll love it on many levels. The acting is beyond gorgeous. The fact that this
that
man
was season 1,
so real. Season 1.
Season 1.
Show 9. Show number 9.
Number 9. 19. Oh, maybe we'll take a look at that tonight. We can talk about it tomorrow.
And if it isn't 9, it's 8. But I think it's 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Then sort of fast forward till you see the painter sitting in front of Winston, who's sitting in a chair trying to pose, and the painter says to him, I want to work in silence. And so Winston starts to talk. And the painter goes along with it. It's just so gorgeous. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It doesn't really even belong in the show, but thanks for listening.
Well, no, I think it does because, to me, the big point of it is that everybody's, whether they know it or not, whether they are doing it consciously or not, we're all constantly drawn to something that allows us to process what we haven't worked through.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful example of it.
that made me think of when we watched, and we haven't watched it in a long time, Call the Midwife.
Oh,
and
I
there
love
was,
that.
I know,
That was
it's
powerful.
awesome. They had one episode where some women had lost their babies, and at the end of it, one of the nurses brings a rose plant and has her plant it, as a memorial or whatever for the child that she lost, because she lost, I guess, in another country, and so she couldn't even go back to the child's grave. And so after we watched that, I actually planted I can't even think of the name of the plant now. I planted 2 of them for 2 babies that I had lost, and it still blooms. It doesn't thrive as much as I would like for it to, but that watching that one season triggered some things in me from a long time ago. And,
wow, Jeanie.
Yeah, and gave me a way of dealing with it as well.
Nice.
So much to deal with.
No kidding. I think you're a great optimist, Michael, that you can think that you can get through all that generational trauma. It just seems like such a huge amount. That's one reason I won't watch the movies. It's like I can't get through what's right in front of me. I don't want to add something, even if it needs to be dealt with.
So I'm going to invite you to look at how your power person message is impacting you about what you can't do. And then I'm going to invite you to be really honest with yourself and acknowledge yourself for the monumental amount of work you've done in the last 5, 6, 7 years. From the point where you were on, I don't know for how many years on, you've shared with us on the show that you were on some pretty heavy-duty medication for years and stepped up and did your work, and you've gotten rid of that. That's a huge amount of work. That's like, most people in the culture can't even fathom doing that. They're so addicted to their drugs. And you've done that level of work, and I'd support you really acknowledging yourself for that.
I think I do, and I appreciate your saying that. The more you've done, the more you get, sort of, though. It seems, I feel more joyful now, and it's true. I feel the fruits, and also one of my grandsons I told him, I said, in whatever form you believe in God and put your troubles to God and listen for God's answer, which is sort of like ask to be told, ask to be shown.
Right, sure.
And he's been doing that, and he's actually joined a kind of interdenominational church at college, and he goes every Sunday. I told you this, didn't I, that he found a pastor who has OCD. He talked to his pastor. Didn't I tell you this? I don't want to repeat myself, but
no, you didn't.
He called his pastor, his new pastor, and said, "I'd love to talk to you." He said, my grandmother keeps telling me to put my troubles to God and to listen to what God says, and I'm doing that, and she's also praying a lot for me, but I don't even know if I believe in God, but I really need God. And the guy said, that's a very good position to be in. And then Charlie said,
good starting point.
He said, I have this kind of anxiety called OCD. And the pastor said, you found the right guy. I have it too. I've been working with it for years. So they went for a walk. The guy came to the college and they went for an hour's walk and talked about strategies on how to handle this anxiety. And also the guy said, you get yourself to church. This is what we do in here. We work with struggles like this. So Charlie has become this. So I feel as if there is a pretty obvious example of the tools being passed down in the form that Charlie can handle them.
Yes.
And
awesome. Well, you might remember that we've talked over the years. It's been a while since I brought this conversation up, but the word liturgy, which is what most churches use to describe their Sunday happening, for the most part it's been lost, and most people don't know what the word means, but it literally translates our common work.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember
every
learning that years ago.
day from noon to 2 o'clock Eastern time, we do liturgy on this radio show. That's what it is.
Yeah.
In its original intent and its original meaning, Sunday wasn't supposed to be about, doing all the fancy stuff that has to do with going to church. It was about gathering in community to do the common work that we have to do. To instruct, to be instructed, to be supported, to support, to learn, to heal. That's the whole meaning of the thing in its origins, and unfortunately it became about dogma and doctrine, and lots of lies got told by people who weren't willing to do their own work, and so twisted and turned teachings until it became unrecognizable in many cases. And then, there are some awesome people that are just about, from within the church. And I remember that when I first came in touch, you've heard us talk a couple of times about a center called John 23rd up in Hartford City, Indiana. And when I first came in touch with that group, and I'm not really remembering at this moment just how I came to work with them, but I was introduced to the priest and the nun who run that organization. And when they touched into the why is this happening to me again work, and it was about healing and about cleaning up, I mean, they were just on it like, flies on sugar. They were just like, yes, and there was always an open invitation and a really deep space for people stepping in and processing.
Wonderful.
So that's pretty sweet that your grandson has tapped into that, and there's so much resistance in the culture because there's been so much hypocrisy and abuse in the name of God. I think that if we can just make the shift from forget about God, God doesn't care whether you think of God or not. God's not that small, but remember your connection to love. And that's where the real work happens, is in our connection to love.
That's good.
So that's pretty awesome to hear that he's tapped into that and accepting that support, and found a pastor that's got working through the same challenges.
I know.
Probably make
Isn't
a good team.
Great. Yeah.
I remember watching some of your grandson's videos and thinking, that kid is so bright.
Oh, that's Jacob. Yeah. You haven't seen Charlie. Charlie's fantastic.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful
I'm mixed up. I was thinking we were talking about Jacob. Okay, Charlie. All right. I got it.
No, that's all right.
Your son's
Why
son.
should you remember? I've got 5 of these guys, and they all have things going on. But, Jacob is talented. We're trying to work with him because he's smoking a lot of weed and drinking at night. He isn't an alcoholic in the same style that his brother Luke is, but it's hurting him, I think. It's hurting even his ability to write music and to perform. It's hurting his throat. He's vaping it. And I don't know, we don't want to, he's going to fly down to see his father. His father has moved to Colombia, and he's flying down by himself to see his father over Christmas, and he's going to go unprotected. So we're thinking about that and what he's going to go through. He can't do anything in the way of weed down with his father. His father will know he's doing it, and that might be a good thing, but who knows. Anyway, I'm going off on tangents. So listen, why don't I get off and let you run your show.
All right, young lady, we appreciate you. And your inquiring, willing mind.
Thanks.
All right. Lots of love. All right, Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody out there in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
No, it is all quiet, so there's no other hand up. So if you have a question or comment or a direction that you would like support, press 1. If you're on another channel where we can't see you in the switchboard, please dial in 563-999-3581 and press 1. It puts a little hand up, and then we know you want to talk. Several people on the switchboard. We've got 29 minutes. Let's go.
So we've got lots of time for conversation. Who has a question or a piece of support or something that would select the direction the rest of the show is going to go today? I appreciate it when we get a question, a comment, something that moves us in a direction, because the process is more live, being real, true, honest interaction. And you know, one of the games of the ego is, you know, well, I'm different than everybody else. And when someone's listening to the show and someone else taps in and starts the process, the realization that, you know, we're all in this boat together. There's nobody that's any different. There's nobody that's got special traumas or, you know, I mean, everybody's got their thing to work with. Some more intense than others, no doubt. But the fact is we're all in this together, and we can all be of support in moving through these stages and spaces of hostility and fear.
And we have a hand up.
Let's say hello.
541. I believe it's Miss Celinda. You're on the air.
Yes, it is. You probably got cross-eyed watching my one come up and go down and come up and go down. But I didn't want to interrupt the conversation, so when it was kind of on a roll, I just put my hand down. I would like to express my appreciation for the conversation between Susan and you, Michael, and all of your sharings, also Jeanie. I really resonate with what Susan is saying, and I'd like to share my take on all of this in relation to my own unique spiritual journey with doing my forgiveness work. I seem to be called to a very gentle, affirmative path, and I seem to as far as I know, this is my truth in this moment, been told by Ruha that my uncovering of my unconscious is to be a much gentler path than perhaps someone else's looks like. And believe me, my stuff comes up in spades on this gentle path. Anything from a cat triggering irritation in me to whatever, it's all coming up and it's being dealt with. I think I had an advantage of my long Christian heritage and my many journeys through many spiritual paths, excuse me, to come to the realization after my first husband's death, and I think I shared this with you at one point, that I was sitting reflecting on his death and woe was me and things like that. When I did, it's like these little thoughts got dropped into my head about, well, you know, life unfolds the way it unfolds. And I had become a pacifist by then. And so I had a different framework to look at than my military framework. I had two of them, actually, to put side by side and reflect on. And I realized one night that all of this war stuff is a co-creative process. It's what you were what I understand you
For sure.
saying, resonance. It's co-creative. We were created to be co-creators, and that's what we're doing. We're running around co-creating. It's a communal effort. We're a group species. And also...
And sadly, what we're not willing to deal with becomes part of our unconscious creation. That's why we have a workshop called On Creating Consciously. And the willingness to step in and handle those unconscious dynamics so that we're not, one, having our own physiology, our own emotional nature destroyed by them, and bringing about, being a vote energetically to bring about more of it in the world. There are a lot of really powerful reasons to clean it up in ourselves.
Perfect. Now I'll continue on. That's what I was going to say. I appreciate your perspective very, very greatly. And I've also come to realize that if I am allowing my belief systems to run the show, I'm never going to get out of my unconscious. And so what I've started doing is I have started actively affirming that this is how I understand it at this point in time for me. And you have mentioned, and Dr. Tim has mentioned both, for me. This is what Spirit tells me to do. And that's why I get a very loud message: thou shalt not watch violent movies. And I think perhaps once is because I'm highly sensitive. I'm guessing now. I have no idea. I just know what the instructions are at this point in time, this moment. The other thing is because I had mentioned, I believe, formally to you and Jeanie and the audience, that I was so distraught when I was 15 and 16 by all of the Holocaust documentaries that were going around at that time on television. And I got I got it at that time. I got it on some level of my teenage self. And it's just a long process for me, and I'm really grateful for this show and for your perspective and Jeanie's perspective, Dr. Tim's perspective, for Susan sharing, because I swear we could be Siamese twins or something at times. Our issues are so similar. And it's been a big help all the way around. But and at the same time, I just wanted to share with you that my perspective at this moment in time is that Spirit says, that's not where you're supposed to go. I have a different way for you to process out this stuff. And so I wanted to share that with you, that we're all so unique in our spiritual journey home. And I appreciate, and we're all, like you say, we're all in the same boat with all these issues at the same time. So it's this and that for me. I just wanted to share that in love.
Awesome. Very cool.
Well, so are you two, and Susan, and Dr. Tim, and the whole shebang of us.
It's a blessed community for sure.
For sure. Thank you so much. That's all I have to say. I'm complete.
All right. Lots of love and blessings. Take care.
Bye-bye.
And Belinda, your package just now arrived, and we do pick up Aria today at 3, so perhaps I can call you after we get her here and she opens the package. How about that?
Okay, that sounds good. Whatever works best for all of you.
Okay. I'll call you after we get her here and she gets ready to open it so she can talk to you.
Sounds like a good thing. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, we have 21 minutes. Somebody else press 1.
Yeah. Got lots of time for conversation. Come on in the house. What's on your mind? How can we support you?
since nobody's raising their hand right at the moment, I'll just share. I know we share a lot about Aria, but, you know, she is our big teacher right now. And yesterday she was talking to me about one of the friends that she has at school, and that her friend is, you know, she considers her a friend and she's nice to her, but she said that this girl is, you know, kind of mean to her and bossy and all of that. And so we had a conversation about, you know, well, people that are angry or, you know, bossy or whatever, they're probably deep inside, they're fearful, and they're just expressing themselves as anger to try to not look at their fear. And she said, well, Nini, I can read minds, and so I know what they're thinking, and usually then, because I know what they're thinking, I can help. And so, and I explained to her, I said, you know, that's awesome if you can hold the space and help them. I said, but you don't have to take the abuse from anybody either. You could tell her, you know, I'm here to support you. I'm your friend. When you want to be nice and talk, you know, come see me, and then you can go play with someone else. I said, you don't have to sit there and take the abuse from her just because she's in her stuff. And she says, well, if ever I can't fix it, you know, I'll do that. And so we're going to have a conversation with her today that it's not her job to fix everybody, and make sure that, you know, she's going in the right direction with that. I know a lot of us, and I say us, are fixers, you know, and we think if we can take care, whether it was our power person or whatever, that if we can fix them, if we can take care of whatever the issue is to get them back to being happy, that, you know, things would be all right. And to direct her in a way where, yes, she can hold the space and help somebody process through it, but it's not her job to fix somebody. So maybe that would trigger something in somebody. We've got 18 minutes. Press 1, let's talk. And we had a hand just go up.
Sweet.
So this is 757. I believe it's Dan. Welcome.
Hey y'all.
Hey, welcome, sir. How do you be?
Doing okay. Being
Tell
well.
Tell us what your worksheet number's at. You texted it to me the other day.
1,571.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've been, and I sort of, actually I always, when I come on here, it's like I get a little jumbled because it's like there's 8 different things I want to discuss, and then it's just, I guess, whatever comes out first. But, you know, I've used, I think, 4 different renditions of the worksheet, and
right.
I want to know if you had any comment on whether you, because at times my mind will tell me, well, this one is better, this one's more powerful, whatever. I've noticed that the one I'm using right now is a Xerox of the one that's provided in the back of the Why Is This Happening to Me Again book. So I think
right.
It's one of the first, if not the first, kind of rendition. And I like that one. I like when the part about releasing feelings and thoughts and need to punish. But I noticed also that in the older one, so in the newer one, the goal is a goal for whatever it is that's triggering me. And in the older one, the goal is just a more general goal. I mean, do you have any sort of thought on that or why that change occurred?
Well, you know what you're looking at, and I don't know what the exact number is, but it's probably something like, you know, the latest worksheet's probably version 7,332. I don't know how many. You know, there were days when I would go through and do 5 different, you know, change the worksheet 5 different times as we put in key ideas and tested it and worked with it. And the feedback I've gotten from people is that they tend to just rotate through different sheets because each one has a slightly different energy and a slightly different focus, and, you know, the different focuses help people to go to different places. So I would just suggest, just see which, again, the most common feedback I've gotten is, yeah, I've got 3 or 4 favorites, and I just kind of rotate through them.
Okay, that's kind of how.
And basically, what I did is I would, I'd edit, then I'd do a "Why is this happening to me again?" workshop. We'd work with it. I'd listen to feedback. I'd make changes, and literally, that process went on. It's only been changed maybe 3 times in the last 4 years. But prior to that, again, there were times when I would make major changes in it 4 times in a day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the first worksheet that I set up was probably 43 or 44 years ago now.
Okay, so it predates the one in the book.
Yes. Yeah, the one in the book was well down the line. Although when I wrote the book, I still didn't really understand, what I understand today, of why you would cancel a perfectly good goal, and that is so that you can collapse the perception driven by that goal. That was a piece when I wrote the book that I did not understand. That piece only came in maybe 15 years ago now, and the book's 25 years ago.
I had something really big, sort of, at least it seemed like it clicked into place for me yesterday. And I've had this thought before, and I maybe shared it before, but it came up again, and I sort of shared it with Terry, and I was really excited, where it was like, so the reason that these goals are driving pain for me is because if I want something, if I hold a goal in mind or in myself, then I'm saying, it's like I'm affirming over and over again that I do not have that. So if I have a goal for my family to accept me, by holding that goal, I'm constantly affirming my family does not currently accept me. Otherwise, how would I have it as a goal? You know what I mean? So
right.
It's like, so I don't know if that was a big sort of thing for me yesterday. Is like, when I hold these goals, I'm actually affirming that the opposite is now the case. And I'm hurting myself with these perceptions that I don't have what I want. It's like saying over and over again, I don't have what I want or need or desire. So that's another reason for canceling those goals.
Right. Absolutely. So it's awesome that you're moving in the direction and are tracking your work. That's pretty fabulous.
Yep, I'm continuing on, and there's seems to be endless layers, and a lot of stuff is coming up regarding the move that's upcoming, because I'm leaving a job that I've been really involved with and have a lot of emotional charge related to, and then I'm moving. I've been living in this one house for 5 years, and a lot of stuff has happened here. And, earlier in the show, I was listening, and I was kind of going through some I don't know, I've kept a lot of clutter and stuff around, and some of it's tied to memories and whatnot, and I'm getting rid of some of it. So just a lot is being stirred up. And I agree with, you were sort of talking earlier. I've sort of have the mindset of, well, I prefer to just stir up everything as much as possible so that I can deal with it and cleanse it and whatnot. I don't know if that's particularly healthy, but that's kind of how I've always been.
Makes sense for me. You can't deal with what you're hiding from yourself that you're not willing to face, so.
Other people tell me maybe I should just focus on learning to be present and just allow myself to exist peacefully. And I don't know if that seems like decent advice too.
Well, I think that's a perfectly good place to go. And if you realize there's work to be done, then I think the wise thing to do is to do your work.
Yeah, well, it seems like, doing at least several worksheets per day is a good thing for me right now. I don't know if it will always be a good thing, but it's working.
Yeah, listen to your highest guidance. That's the best thing I know to do. Everything that we offer is just an offering. Ultimately, the objective of this work is to support each person who comes to the work in their direct connection with the real teacher, and the only real teacher there is within.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my objective, is to support each person to, connecting to their own inner to their own intuition, and knowing firsthand what there is to be done, and the best approach for moving it forward.
Well, I think I'm in agreement with that. I think that's awesome.
Cool. Well, anything else on your mind for today?
Yeah, there's always something going on. I mean, the guy that I'm going to be working for, that we're setting things up in Charlottesville. When I move there, I'll be working for him. And, I look up to him, I admire him, so on and so forth. And I've noticed in a lot of our communications, I'm reading in a lot of stuff that's not actually there. We were sending some text messages yesterday about just what's it called, logistical stuff I need to do to get prepared. And I kept thinking, oh, he hates me, he thinks I'm incompetent, he thinks I'm a little child, and it's like that was nowhere in his communications. So
sounds like you're back to power person messages.
Yeah. Is it possible? Does anyone have more than one power person, or is it?
Oh yeah.
Like typically an aggregate find, or what?
No, we'll tend to have different power persons in different arenas of our lives. So in one situation, let's say when it comes to finances, there might be a power person that, when we're under stress, and the way you tell who your key power person is in any given arena is when you're under stress, whose behavior do you do? Who modeled that behavior for you? And that's your first clue to that's your power person in that arena. So you might have a power person in the arena of relationships, and a different power person in the arena of money, a different power person in the arena of work or performance. Each area of life will oftentimes, now sometimes that power person would be the same person in more than one area, but oftentimes it will be someone different. And the best way I know to go to, okay, exactly who is it? So here I am under stress. Who gave me that message? Where did I get that modeling from? And that's who the power person will be. Jeanie has a kind of an interesting story about that. Jeanie, would you like to share your insight on your power person dynamic?
Sure. I always thought that it was my mom that was my power person. And, I do catch myself doing some of the things that she did, the look and the breath and things like that. But ultimately, and this was when we were doing teachers training and doing the long form, and it was like when you're ultra stressed, what do you do? And my ultimate go-to is I want to leave. And I don't like confrontation. When I feel like my back is against the wall and I have to come out fighting, that's when my anger will flare and everything. But my ultimate choice would be just to leave, to get out of the space and, whatever. And what I realized was that was my dad. Now, my dad was one of the sweetest, calmest, to the day he died, he was, I can only name like maybe 3 times in my life that I ever saw him anything but calm. But he went to the farm constantly. Now, he had supposedly good reason, quote unquote, he needed to take care of the fields and the cows and all those things. But I think ultimately that he left because it was so stressful at the house that was his way of dealing with it, was to leave. And he had a good reason, a good excuse for leaving. And so what I realized was that's my ultimate power person. And he was calm and sweet and kind, and, but what he was doing is what I saw as, this is how I survive. Even though it was not something, mean or hateful, or, you know, most people would just say, you know, oh, he had a reason, he needed to go take care of the farm. But so that was interesting. And then, of course, you know, I had gotten married when I was 16 years old to escape the house, and went right into out of the frying pan into the fire. And that former husband actually became a power person. Yeah, I know. But he became a power person of, this is how you control people around you, you know, and I didn't go to the point that he did as far as physically hurting, but, you know, it's, so yeah, you can move from, and people that go into service, you know, their sergeant or whoever that, you know, beats on them until they do what they're told to do, you know, they become a power person. If you marry someone who is just really, you know, in your face, they can become your power person. A boss can become a power person. I have found that you can have different ones in different aspects, like one in relationships and one in business and one in, you know, because like at work, I would overwork, not because it was being demanded of me, but because I felt a need to prove myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, so just you can have, yeah. And then I think that, you know, I developed what was called OCD, you know, wanting things, and I still want things to be neat and nice and clear and clean around me. But I also realized that trying to control the outside clutter was a way of also hiding an inside chaos.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, there is, and I'm working on getting it out, but I'm not complete yet either.
Well, that actually what you shared, Jeanie, resonated so much for me, not just as a explanation, but being kind of fitting with where I'm at, because you know, I've been doing this work intensely for like 6 months, but before this, I've been in 12-step recovery for about 12 years. So I've kind of dug around quite a bit and done some form of healing work for, you know, over a decade. And a lot of that time, I didn't have the vocabulary, but the work I was doing, I was seeing my mother as my power person. And and I'm aware that I've been in a lot of blame towards her. And I think I've done a lot of healing in that regard. And this, getting involved in this work has kind of not brought that to completion, but kind of softened it. And especially my last, you know, relationship that I've talked about a lot and that kind of inspired a lot of these worksheets I've done, it's sort of cleaned up some of that. And it feels like, now I'm not saying that dynamic is gone or complete or resolved, but it feels like I'm moving a little bit more into the dynamic with my father, which is also kind of like you were sharing, like I never would suspect it as a source of, you know, inner pain or as a dynamic or anything like that, because of his sort of calm demeanor. And I always thought, well, my mom is my problem. That's where all my problems come from, you know, being in blame towards her. And as that sort of calms down a little bit, and the funny thing is so my dad, he's retired, but he's a psychiatrist, and a lot of times he was, you know, just in my personal life, he seemed aloof and distant and not very available. And his thing as well was kind of maybe not just leaving, but emotionally leaving to avoid conflict. My mom was a lot more kind of fiery and emotional, and he would just withdraw, and even if he was there, he would disappear emotionally. But the guy I'm going to work for is also a psychiatrist, so he would be somebody that kind of replicates at least part of that, and that might be why some of these inner messages are coming up. So I just, you know, I thank you for sharing that, because that really helped me make sense of my situation a little bit more. Like that is another piece sort of clicking into place there. So like I said, and like you were kind of saying, I sort of never suspected that dynamic, even after doing a lot of work. Well, there's not really anything with me and my dad. That area's fine. There's nothing to see there, and it's like maybe that's not so accurate.
And let me add too, you know, as a child, we need one safe space or safe parent. And so, like, my mom was the one that did all of the punishment, and she was, the harsh voice and the demanding and all of that. So Dad was my safe parent. And so not realizing him leaving as a power person dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Breathing with you.
How'd you know I needed to be reminded?
Because I needed to be.
Okay.
Well, we'd be holding the space. The show is going to cut us off any second, so I'm just going to say appreciation for your input, for your thoughts, and look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you both.
Everybody have the best year